Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, landlords wanted to cheat me and live for free. The second story, new boss lost an employee in the system I created. The third story, woman hoped that I would remove the snow from her yard for free. On to the first story, I'm not the loser. Some backstory. My family has a small apartment complex. We aren't greedy landlords, it just pays the bills, mortgage, life stuff, and schooling for my siblings. School isn't cheap. A friend of my mom's asked for a favor since she had friends that ended up without a home, and the lady, eventual tenant, was going through cancer treatment. We're nice people, and an apartment had just become available. We let them move in ASAP, no deposit, no contract, no background check. Yes, that was stupid, but it was a favor for a family friend that helped us out during very tough times. The new tenants move in. Mom, dad, both in late 50s, and son, mid-30s. They start complaining about minor issues. They wanted to paint the apartment or something. My brother was managing the situation at the time, and to get him off his back, agreed to it. Later, they billed him for the paint job. Peeved us off that we got billed for something that didn't need to be done, but we shrugged it off. We didn't want problems. As time went, the dad kept complaining about things, but said he could fix them if we paid him. We caught on and found out that he used to work in apartment maintenance. He said he knew how to take things apart and put them back together, and knew how everything inside apartments worked. This is important for later on. After a few months of them living there, they call saying heater isn't working. They wanted us to give them money to fix it. We tell them we're sending a repair guy. They try to insist they'll do it. We send repair guy. Repair guy says we need to install a completely new heater, and that the tenants blew some of the electrical stuff in the apartment. He made the tenants sign a paper stating they were at fault for the electrical issue, and that everything was working after the repair guy fixed everything. We were peeved off at this point, as it cost us about $2,000, but couldn't do anything, as we had no contract with them, and felt bad for the lady who had cancer. Fast forward about 8 months, and tenants have stopped paying rent. We let 1 month pass. They promised they'd have the money soon. 2 months, same thing. 3 months, still nothing. At this point, my brother can't deal with them anymore, and my mom asks me to evict them. I send a 3-day notice, hoping they realize we're serious and they have to pay or leave. The dad calls me, yelling and screaming, saying he isn't paying anything and that we owe him money. He goes on to say that he won't pay or leave until a sheriff shows up at their door and tells them to leave. This is my first personal interaction with them. My mom and brother complained about them being very unpleasant and extremely rude people, with a touch of righteousness about themselves. They don't move out. I file a lawsuit. They respond with the help of a court-appointed lawyer for low-income people. I feel SH about doing this to them, but they left us no choice. They ask for a jury trial and claim the apartment was unlivable, so they shouldn't have to pay rent. Talk to some lawyers. Find out it's a tactic to stay longer without paying rent. Meanwhile, tenants call to let me know there's a leaky shower faucet. Send a plumber to repair it. He repairs it, shows them it's working, leaves. Next day, they call again saying it's broken again. Call plumber, he's both shocked and embarrassed, and can't figure out why it broke again. This time I go with him to make it a point that I saw it get fixed. Plumber fixes it at no charge. Following week, get a call from tenants, good tenants GT, that live underneath bad tenants, BT, saying there's a leak coming from upstairs. Send in the plumber again for an emergency plumbing issue. They refuse to let him in, end up causing damage to the GT closet. Needed to be remodeled because of this. The BT call their lawyer saying I'm harassing them a few minutes after they deny plumber entrance. Lawyer calls me ready to give me or rip me a new one, saying I'm sending strangers, the plumber, to harass them and whatnot. I get lawyer up to date. He apologizes and asks me to get plumber back in. A couple weeks go by, and I get a notice from health department. BT were trying to document things and claim there was rodents. Inspector included in his report that there wasn't, but that there were new holes in the wall and black stuff on the tub, all of which I found weird. I had just been to apartment, and there were no holes or black stuff on tub. Call health department to explain situation, and was told that I had to repair everything, even if it hadn't been there before. A month later, get another report, complaining about torn carpet, more holes and a broken heater. Weird considering they were in first report, and we had put in a new heater not even a year ago. It occurs to me that the dad who threatened and said he knew how to do apartment stuff was doing all the damages. Neighbors started complaining about loud banging coming from their apartment at night. So they were purposely causing damage to get out of paying rent. A hits right. I call the health department again, and they basically stop reporting BT findings, so BT move on to county code enforcement to try and get back at us. Code enforcement comes and gives us a list of things to fix. We explain that the things on the list are items that we didn't put into apartment, but that tenants did. Ceiling fan and some other stuff I really don't remember. Guy is cool, says he'll wait to re-inspect once the eviction is complete. So by now I'm peeved and start to investigate these people. Find out none of them actually work, but that they live off of lawsuits and fraud. They were also evicted from last place, but settled out with landlord. This is where I start trying to think of some pro-revenge. The son gets checks from the government for being a caregiver to his parents. So I'm going over lawsuit and responses, and notice that their attorney didn't actually represent them all, even though he kept putting et al. Turns out only the parents would qualify for free attorney, since they don't work, but son gets caregiver check, thereby not qualifying him for free attorney. They thought I wouldn't notice this little detail, so I pretended not to notice. I told their lawyer that I agreed to their settlement, free rent for the next month and no back rent owed. This dragged on so long that we're talking about almost 9 months of rent, over $10,000. Show up to court and just to double check, I ask the lawyer who she represents. Firm sent a different lawyer than the original, fresh-faced, brand new attorney. I was correct, only 2 of 3 tenants were represented. Sign the settlement, get my copy. Tenants asked their lawyers if they could leave since they had my signature. They leave. So now there are no tenants, and only the lawyer that represents 2 of them. Go up before judge, tell them we reached a settlement. I interrupt and tell him I would like a summary judgment against the tenant who didn't respond. Lawyer is new, looks flustered but says nothing. Judge grants me summary judgment, against the one tenant with fees and everything, eviction on his record. Now as far as the lawyer is concerned, she did her part for her defendants, and I know they won't find out about the summary judgment until they move out. They move out, find out about the summary judgment against the son after they moved out. Now before they found out, they were bragging how they screwed me and effed me, and how they're so smart and no one messes with them. After they learned about judgment, they realized they're screwed. The son was the only one that could prove income and rent, an apartment for them all. Now he has an eviction on his record with over $10,000 owed. The parents won't work in order to win their lawsuits, but last I heard they weren't going so well. I also heard they were trying to sue me. Don't know for what, but they're going to psychologists because I made them sad or something. Insert sarcasm here. I also found out they've been kicked out of 2 different relatives' homes. The second story is, now boss takes it in the neck. Years ago, I was the manager of an elite help desk team for a large computer manufacturer. This was the coolest job because of the perks. I got to handpick the best of the best techs to work in my department because we charged $2 per minute for support. We would support anything that anyone was willing to pay us $2 a minute to support. Each tech had the potential to earn the company $960 per day, which is a big deal because tech support is not usually a profit center for any company. The reason I'm explaining this is because I was required to give up 2 techs for their entire shift in order to run a complex report for my bosses, which cost them potentially nearly $2,000 a day. The company IT department had not been able to automate the creation of this report, so they gave it to me to deal with. After running through it with my techs, we came up with a process that involved receiving the previous day's data from IT. Tech 1 started the report, working on it for her entire shift. Tech 2 resumed the report for her entire shift, turning it into management for their review at the end of the second shift. So data from Monday was delivered to us Tuesday morning and was turned into a report for management by Tuesday evening, which they wouldn't see until Wednesday morning. The data was 2 days old by the time they saw it. My team was the golden child of the tech support arm of the company, and I had a great boss. Great boss. I had a meeting with him about this daily report issue because I wanted my 2 techs back on the phones making money. I offered to write a software application on my own, which would retrieve the data in real time and create the reports for the currently available data whenever management wanted to view it. No more 2-day-old data. I was offering 5-minute-old data. I asked for 2 weeks' salary as compensation, and Great Boss agreed. For him, it was a steal. Potentially $1,920 daily in reclaimed revenue from 2 techs who were pulled off of a profitable team was a super deal for him. So I got to work. It took about a week to write the code. When I was finished, I installed it on one of the company's servers and did some fine-tuning. Everything worked as planned. I was about to raise the performance metrics of my team and make a few thousand extra in the process. Unfortunately, during that week, Great Boss had been forced into retirement, and I had a new boss, who came with a yes man named Randy Weasel. When I presented the reporting system to new boss and Randy Weasel, they were really impressed. They loved that they didn't have to look at old and stale data and could be proactive instead of reactive. Then I mentioned the agreement with Great Boss regarding compensation for my time. That's when things went south. New boss said he would need to clear that with the upper management and that he didn't think he could pay that. The next day, he came back with an offer for 2 vacation days instead of an actual payment. Of course, I turned that down. His argument was that it would be better to get something for my work than to get nothing for it. It was then that I learned that my access to the server had been revoked. I couldn't take it back. They had the goods, and I was at their mercy. Or was I? As the author of the software, only I knew how it worked, what maintenance it required, and only I had the source code, so it couldn't be modified by anyone else. If they wanted changes, they would have to rewrite it from scratch. I knew it would only be a matter of time before lack of maintenance bit them, so I planned to be long gone by then. My revenge began about 5 minutes into my next shift. I arrived with a large duffel bag and 2 sheets of paper in a folder. Right on schedule, Randy Weasel arrived at my desk for some nonsense thing. Being an idiot, he thought nothing of it when I handed him a clipboard and said, "Sign this." He took the pen and jotted his signature down like a trained dog. He continued his nonsense, and I said, "Follow me to the copy machine," which he did. He went on with his nonsense while I made a copy of the sheet he signed, and the other sheet which I pulled out of the folder. I then stapled the 2 copies together and put them in his hand. He looked down at the top sheet, a vacation request from starting today through the next 2 weeks. He said, "You can't take this," to which I replied, "You signed it, and it gets better." He flipped to the next sheet, my 2 weeks' notice. His eyes grew to the size of saucers as he realized that yesterday was my last day and that they had no replacement for my duties and no leadership for my team. I returned to my desk and proceeded to pack up everything. I got my 2 weeks paid vacation. Great boss hired me to lead a tech support department with a new company. Best of all, the reporting system I built crashed due to lack of maintenance within a month. I'd like to think that new boss and Randy Weasel lived to regret their actions, but the reality is that they probably just found someone else to screw over. Whatever, I got mine, and they got Jack. And the last story is, don't want to pay me for shoveling your snow? Well, have some more. I live in New Jersey, and we just had a snowstorm, so I thought I could make some quick cash by shoveling driveways. So I start off and do a couple of houses, and make about $80. Pretty good money for me. So I go to this house, and this lady says that she'll give $50 for shoveling her driveway and sidewalk. So I start and finish about 20 minutes later. I go up to the door and knock, but she won't open, so I go to the back door and knock. She still doesn't open. Then I see her looking at me through the window, but she quickly turns away and pretends like nothing happened. At this point, I realize that I just got tricked into doing an ton of work, and I'm not getting paid. I start to walk home all peeved off, and then remember that my friend who lived down the street has one of those machines that clears snow. Let the revenge begin. I borrow it from him and run down to her house. I turn it on and blast that snow that I shoveled and some more all on her yard. Then she rushes outside and starts yelling at me, but I return the machine to my friend's house and go home. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out.